Welcome to Tuesday. Have you had a look at the Sewcialist blog yet? You can find it quickly via the Sewcialist Instagram bio. There's a link there. Today's Tuesday and we welcome the Australian editor for the Sewcialist, Chloe Reid. How are you, Chloe?
I'm really well, thank you, Maria. How are you?
I'm very good. Our weather's started to turn a little bit cooler, don't you think?
Yes, it has. I've got a dog who's very thin-furred and he's suddenly curling himself into a really tight ball with his nose underneath his tail, which is a sign it's getting cold.
Oh, how cute. I'll have to look for a photo of that on Instagram.
Oh yes, I'm sure there are many. If not, I'll put one up this week.
Thanks. Last week, you mentioned a blog post that Gillian was doing, and it was about her tips and tricks around sewing when you're getting fatter. Did you get much feedback?
Right, yes, we did. It was amazing, actually. So I think she's planning to make that a whole series of kind of how do you sew for when your body changes. And I can see already, like, even the comments from her post during the week that there were people who were talking about quite the opposite. So sewing when they've lost lots of weight and what they do for that. And I could instantly think about kind of the way that your body changes over time from pregnancy or aging or sewing for growing children or, like lots of ways that we could explore that topic. But of course, being Gillian, being very not just brave, I think, but really kind of happy with herself and her sewing. She led with what she does for her body and talked about how she said, I think she's increased an inch a year for the last 10
years. I read
years
that, yeah, 1 inch
something
a
like
year.
that in the post.
Yeah.
And she said that her doctor had said that it's actually really common, particularly for women, which kind of made me feel better. I really like her post exploring the different kind of, some of it is about the emotional change that your body changing has and the way that you view yourself differently at different sizes and that kind of thing. And then it swings to the kind of deeply practical, which is remembering to finish your seams open rather than together, because then it's easier to just unpick the single line of stitching, rather than if you overlock your seams, you would have, it's quite a job to unpick them, and to leave the full seam allowance so that you've just got more room to let your clothes out or indeed to take them in if you want to. So I really like that mixture of kind of the emotional and the practical in the post.
I thought the really cool thing was that Gillian says to have very wide seam allowances. That's a very couture thing to do.
Yes, yeah. I've noticed the same. There are some patterns that were obviously designed by people who used to be quilters, and they all have teeny weeny, like 1/4 inch seam allowances because that's what you use in quilting.
Yeah.
And then you get kind of the other end of the scale, which is the kind of 5/8, which is more of a standard from kind of the olden days of sewing, which is when you used to use seam allowances quite a lot to take clothes in and out.
Yeah. The other neat thing that she wrote was, do you notice how sometimes your underwear doesn't reach as far as it should, or like your shirts are too short? And I thought, oh, that's right. It was a head slap moment for me.
She's really good at capturing that stuff. I also got a lot out of reading the comments. Like people say that you should never read the comments on the internet. And one of the kind of running jokes inside Sewcialists is that like you're one of the only places that you actually want to read the comments because the sewing community is so generous and open and supportive of each other.
True.
And so there were lots of people in the comments who were saying things that almost relate a little bit to the kind of sew the precious theme that we've got going on, which is, I'm sitting here with all this fabric that I don't want to cut into because I'm going to be thinner in the future, or whatever it is, and that they felt really inspired to just make something that they love to wear right now.
Yeah.
And not spend their kind of whole time with this fabric stash that they're not cutting into, because in some worlds they'll be different in the future. And then also some people who were just totally different angle on it, because they obviously, for whatever reason, have bodies that change a lot, so they fluctuate a lot between sizes. And so for them, some of those tips like seam allowances and making sure if you can sneak an elastic waist into things, all of those are just really helpful practical tips.
They're very helpful.
So I think that'll be a series, given how I saw even in the comments some people saying, oh, yes, I could talk about this. So I think we might have a series of posts on how you sew for your body when it's changing in the future.
Yep, I think there are some really good bloggers who are happy to share their experience, who are commenting on. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the next few blog posts about sewing for changing sizes.
Yeah, that'll be great. And it kind of perfectly encapsulates for many of us what the whole point and joy of sewing is, right? If I have a red, whatever top it is, a red V-neck top with long sleeves that I really like, and I lose weight or I become pregnant or I gain weight, I can make the exact same top to fit the body I have the next time around, like, so you never have to be without the thing that you really love.
Exactly, because we've got sewing skills and we can do that.
That's right.
So sewing, yeah, superpower.
And then, so moving to this week, then we've got a few posts coming up that are pretty interesting. So we've got one of our Who We Are series, and we put a call out for this a little while ago. We asked people about sewing in kind of extreme weather conditions. And so what we've actually got is a post from 2 people who are sewing for heat/sun protection.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. They're actually for different reasons. So one of them is in the United Arab Emirates. So clearly it is just extremely hot where they live.
True.
And also they have to consider the cultural norms about what you wear when you're there. So for example, I think she's originally from Australia, and she was like, I can't wear shorts in the way that I would in Australia. So I've had to kind of think about linen pants and, those kinds of things. And then the other lady is actually in somewhere in the US where they don't actually see a lot of sun, but she's developed some sort of like allergy to the sun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh no.
The poor thing.
Yeah, and she's got kids. So, of course, she's trying to take her kids to the park when she can't kind of be outside in the sunlight. And so she says in her post something on the lines of, she spent all this time avoiding the sun, and she's decided instead to use her sewing skills to learn how to sew things like rash vests, that you could wear, most of us would wear them to go to the beach or go swimming or something, but instead she'll wear them as a protective layer so she can still go out and about in just normal kind of everyday life.
Rash vest was the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking about a situation.
Yes, exactly. I'm not sure if it's a common term around the world. I only learned it when I came to Australia. So it's like a swimsuit material, close-fitting vest, often with sleeves, so that you can kind of cover as much of your body while you're swimming.
A rashie.
That's right, a rashie. So that's pretty interesting. And then part of the So Stay Home series, we've got an Italian lockdown version. So as many of your listeners would know, Italy has been particularly affected by COVID-19. And so there's 2 people who live in Italy and sew in Italy who've contributed to that post as well.
Oh, that'd be really good to read their story.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been reflecting. I was talking to my parents only last night about the differences between countries, just how lucky we are in where we're based in terms of the degree to which we haven't needed to go into more extreme lockdown, that we haven't had as many people who died, particularly from the virus. So it made me feel very fortunate.
We're very fortunate, and as an aside on that, there are 3 people who are very close to me who have needed to go to hospital, and it wasn't because of the virus, and we've had the resources to be able to look after them.
Yeah.
So we are very lucky.
Yeah, we are. And it's hearing other people's stories that makes you realise that, right? You understand and connect with people in different countries and understand what they're dealing with.
Yeah, so the Italian experience is going to be really interesting to read.
And then the final one is Friday, which is the 1st of May. And so we finally decided on hashtag May We Remind You for our May.
Sorry.
That's fine. And that will be, as we said before, we've realised that we've had just about the right number of theme months since we relaunched Sewcialists to do one kind of post every time we would normally post on a different theme month, kind of some revisiting it, some kind of flashbacks, some where we update it, but just having fun, looking at all the things we've explored so far and kind of updating ourselves on where we're at with them. So I'm really looking forward to that.
You've done so many theme months that having a bit of an update is a really good way to reflect how far we've come.
It is. And it's also a really good way to realise how much the brain plays tricks on you, because some, I think, oh, that was only last year and it was in the beginning of 2018. And then there are others that feel like they weren't very long ago that were actually, yes. It was good looking back through all of them and seeing all the topics that we've covered and some of the posts from then too. So it was great.
It'll be a good read. Again, another good read.
That's right. So that's for the coming week.
Sounds like another busy week, but a really interesting one.
Before we go, I'll tell you one thing that happened this week that wasn't supposed to. I got accidentally locked out of the Sewcialists blog.
As an editor, that's not really handy, is it? No.
That's right. So I went to schedule a post, and it was after we'd done some work we're WordPress hosted, so we'd done some changes with them because there was something that needed to be fixed. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can't get in. I can't post the post that's meant to be for today, because sometimes I leave scheduling till almost the last minute because it's evening time here. It's quite easy. It's 7 a.m. in the morning for Canada and the
True.
States. And so it's easy for me to just kind of set an alarm for after tea and go in and schedule a post. So I went in to do it and was like, oh my God. And everybody else was asleep, of course. So I had to ping Anne and Gillian, who are in Canada, because they're usually the first up, and say, you have to schedule today's post when you get up.
And they came to your rescue.
They did. And then I got fixed. I'm now fixed and I can access it again. But that was a bit of drama for me during the week.
That's a really strong team helping each other from across the globe.
Yes, thank goodness somebody else is across all the scheduling stuff. Otherwise, we might have been in trouble.
But disaster averted.
That's right. Phew. I tell you, there was some anxious moments that night.
Well, you look a lot more relaxed today than probably what you would have looked like at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks again, Chloe, for updating us about this week's stories. They're going to be really interesting reads. Let Gillian know that I really loved her post about her sewing for her size.
I will do.
Cool.
Great. Thank you for having me. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Have a good day, listeners. Bye.
Bye.